What were some of the most interesting places, some of your favorite places that you explored in the course of doing the books?
I have to kind of differentiate between. I've moved on to another project now, and which is a statewide coastal website that I'm doing. So those are the most in my forefront of my
Okay.
mind right now. So let me step back here. I think some of my favorite places locally are the Coyote Hills
Hmm.
down in Fremont,
Okay.
and that's part of the East Bay Regional Park System.
Hmm.
Partly because, I mean, you can go for miles if you hook up with another trail. And it's a varied experience because you can go, there's a little Tule Marsh you can go through on a boardwalk. And there's a visitor center there. And then they have a trail along the bay and see all the salt ponds. So it's really diverse, and it's a great place for families. Other place, I mean, that's the one that stands out for me. And actually, the one thing I want to say, too, is that the book was intended to just give people ideas about the richness in our own backyard, because so often we think that to get out to nature, we have to take this long trip to get
Right.
somewhere. And there's just so much close by, and a lot of it is even accessible by public transportation. So, just there's a whole world out there waiting to be explored, and it's not, and it doesn't have to be that far from your home.
Since the first volume was sponsored by the Coastal Conservancy, what would you say are some of your favorite oceanside places?
Favorite oceanside? Well, it was the ocean and bay,
Hmm.
so it wasn't just along the coast. There's in Half Moon Bay State Park.
Hmm.
Has a really nice trail, and they have a beach wheelchair available. A lot of the state parks now are getting beach wheelchairs, and there is one available there that you can loan for free. And there's also a way to get onto the beach that feels like you're actually getting onto the beach and not just a distant observer.
You talked a little bit about Año Nuevo in one of the books. How was that? Were you able to see the seals and everything when you went there?
Yes, in fact, they prevented us from getting down to another spot because they were laying right across the trail. So we got very close to them. It's a fabulous place to go for anyone. And they have a separate trail. I believe they call it their all-access trail. You definitely have to make a reservation for it, and they take you in a van to a separate location because they have to go across private property. And then there's a boardwalk that, in some instances, you get a better view than people that aren't on that
Oh,
trail.
that sounds very encouraging. Yeah, I went there once myself, and it was quite a trek to get
yeah.
from the visitor center all the way down to the beach and back. Now, you've also been exploring places in Southern California a little bit.
Right. I'm working on a new project, and this is going to be a website. And again, it's funded by the Coastal Conservancy, and it's going to cover the entire coast from San Diego County all the way up to Del Norte County. And I have covered a lot of miles and have done mostly Southern and Central California, and probably in the spring we'll cover Northern California.
So you might be going up to Arcata and all those places too.
I do have some people identified up there that will do some of those, but I think I might have to go up to Sonoma and Mendocino on my own.
So I think you were telling me earlier that you have not been disabled all your life. You became disabled around 15, is that right?
When I was 15, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but let's say a long time ago.
You're almost the same age as I am, so we won't discuss that subject at all. But how did that play into your sense of doing the guides now, knowing what it's like to be fully able-bodied and then having to deal with the disabilities? Do you think the books open up a world to people that they might not have realized was accessible to them?
Oh, I certainly hope so. It was my main motivation for wanting to do it is not just for me to be able to go out to these places, but to share with other people what is out there. Especially when we think about nature, we think that it might not be accessible to people with mobility limitations. And after my injury, I mean, I was always a very physical person, and so it was really important for me to be able to have that back in my life. And even though right now that I use a motorized wheelchair when I go on the trails now so that I can go further distances and over rougher terrain. And even though I'm not getting the physical activity, I'm still being outdoors and participating outdoors and, being with friends and family. And so hopefully the guide will get people motivated to get out there. And even, like I said, if they're not doing the actual exercise themselves, that being outdoors is invigorating.
Yeah, and I think, there's so much beauty in California that people just overlook. And especially if you think, as you were saying before, that it's too far to go, and yet it turns out there are many places that the city bus will take you to, or something equivalent. So being able to find access to things that you didn't realize were possible or didn't realize you could manage, I think is very nice for people really to be able to enjoy that, because there is so much. I'm sure the Coastal Conservancy has written a lot about that. The whole process of writing for you, how did you go about it?
Well, first of all, I don't even know if today I consider myself a writer. It was definitely not in my career goals to be a writer. In fact, I struggle with writing. I think I've learned a great deal. The first time I submitted my article and it came back and it was mostly red ink, I was mortified. And I have since talked to other people and they say, oh, that's common, and it was very humbling. And I still to this day don't necessarily enjoy writing, but I enjoy the research and the process of investigating. And so writing doesn't come necessarily easy to me, but I have some great editors involved, and it opened my eyes to the importance of an editor.
And you had also done some work as a travel agent or a travel guide?
Yes, I worked for 8 years as a travel agent, and I specialized in accessible travel. And before that, I did a lot of organizing of trips for people with disabilities, camping trips, whitewater rafting trips. I worked for an organization called Bay Area Outreach and Recreation Program. So I have a long career of being in the travel industry.
And it's a very useful background to have coming into a project like this. Let me show people the other guide that you wrote. So now this one, tell us a little bit about that.
This one is an access guide to San Francisco, and this is in its 4th edition, and it's available from the San Francisco Convention and Visitors Bureau. And you can either go down to their visitor center at Holiday Plaza and pick it up for free. There's also, you can get it on their website and download it as a PDF. There are versions available for people that are low vision or blind, that are large print or on audio. You can get those from the San Francisco Mayor's Office on Disability and also the Convention and Visitors Bureau. And both of those entities helped fund the project. And it's 2.5 years old now, so we're hoping to do another one. Although my idea is maybe to do a access map instead of a book. And
then people could just keep that right in front of them as they go around. So this kind of thing is very useful for tourists then, I guess, or people who are only here for a short period of time?
That's the intended audience, but it definitely is useful to people that live here as well. And actually what I got a lot of calls from are people that lived in San Francisco but were having a relative visit them that used a wheelchair.
Oh, really?
So it definitely helps residents as well.
So what projects are you working on now for the future? I guess tell us a little bit about Access. It's called Access Northern California?
Yes.